But one thing I want you to take away from this narrative. Nowhere in this entire narrative do we see Yod He Vav He. We don't see Lord in uppercase. We don't see Yod He Vav He. We don't see Yah. We don't see Elohim. We don't see the Most High. Yah was never in this narrative. No word from Yah came to them on Simeon or Levi. I want you to go, and as retribution for your sister, go and kill everything and steal everything. Jacob, I want to let you know that your sons have been committed by me to go and do this act because your daughter Dinah was raped and abused and beaten. It. Yah is not in this narrative. So now when I go back to Jasher, Jubilees, when I go back to the rabbinic Midrash Agadah, they said that the Lord was responsible for this, but the text doesn't say that. Who are we to believe? Okay, I'm gonna transition. Let's transition. A lot more to be said, but we're gonna get into some comparative textual analysis, right? Let's move past that. All right. So if we go into other primary texts of Bereshit or Genesis, such as the LXX, the Dead Sea Scrolls, LXX, Dead Sea Scrolls, Samaritan Pentateuch, because these are all texts that represent the primary text. So there's a parent text and it splits off, and so the tradition you get from the LXX or Septuagint, the tradition you get from the Masoretic text that comes much later, the tradition you get from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the tradition you get to Samaritan Pentateuch. These are all the primary texts of Genesis. Do any of those texts disagree with the narrative that we find in the Masoretic text? If they do, we can give leeway to all the other commentary. If they don't, we simply can't. Genesis chapter 34, and the Septuagint reads, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went forth to observe the daughters of the inhabitants, and Shechem, the son of Emor, the Hivite, the ruler of the land, saw her and took her, labano. He took her. That's the same word equivalent to what we get in the Hebrew text. Equivalent of the same word, lachach, or lachach. Same one. And lay with her, koi ma'o. Equivalent with shechav in the Hebrew text. And humbled her, tapai na'o. Tapai na'o. That is the equivalent of ana in the Hebrew text. There is no deviance. That translation is from the LXX Brenton translation of 1851. A more modern translation says, now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, and I put the Greek text up there as well that they're both pulling from, whom she had born to Yaakov, went out to observe the daughters of the inhabitants, and Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Karite, the ruler of the land, saw her, and seizing her, labano, and lay with her, koi ma'o, with her, and humbled her, tapai ano. Same thing. NET translation of the Septuagint. There's no deviance. It reads the same. And if you read the rest of the narrative, it is equivalent. Dead Sea Scrolls? Well, maybe it's Dead Sea Scrolls, because that's where we found the Book of Jubilees. None of the Dead Sea Scrolls have Genesis chapter 34 and verse 2 intact. None of them. You're not going to find Genesis 34 and 2 anywhere there. There are other portions of Genesis chapter 34. A lot of them are incomplete, but you're not going to see anything on verse 2. However, when we look at the manuscripts that do possess portions of Genesis 34, there are no differences with the Hebrew Masoretic text. This leads scholars to believe that there is no proven means to assume that the rest of the text disagrees. This is how we deal with textual criticism. So according to the minds of the scholars, as much as we do have in Genesis 34 that agrees with the Masoretic text, which I sent you on the sheet, you can see an example of that. This is 4Q576 Genesis, or 4Q Gen, chapter 34 verses 7, which we have verses 9 and verses 10. Comparing it to the Masoretic text, there are no extant differences. None. Whatever we have in Genesis 34 amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls agrees with the Masoretic text, and therefore these scholars believe that the entire text is equivalent and there's a minimal amount of deviance. I'm trying to see what tradition are they getting all this midrash from. The Samaritan Pentateuch disagreed with the Hebrew manuscript. Genesis 34:2, and when Shechem the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, same word, lechach, laid with her, shachav, and defiled her, anah. There is no textual variance among the compared manuscripts above and the translations that I went over with y'all that you can see for yourselves. Amongst the Samaritan Pentateuch, amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls, amongst the Septuagint. Now, if you want more information on how to do textual criticism of the Hebrew Bible, there's an excellent book by Emmanuel Tove, who's a foremost scholar of Hebrew textual criticism, and he has a book called Textual Criticism of the Hebrew Bible, edition 1, 2, and 3. Third edition is the one you want to get, and you'll see how this method is applied. So, do the textual data, comparative textual analysis of various manuscripts that represent the primary text. None of them have any deviance. They all are equivalent and agree. So therefore, there's no leeway there for some additional commentary to say, well, the Lord said for them to do this, and Shechem went and he took her by force, he overpowered her, he had his servants lay her down while he raped her. None of that is there. None of that is there in the primary text. I just gave you 3 additional witnesses to the Masoretic text. So we went into scene 7, which is a comparative textual analysis, right? Here's the text up here on your screen that you should see in your sheet. None of them disagree with the Masoretic text. 3 other witnesses outside of Masoretic text, no deviance, no textual deviance, no textual variance. They all agree. Next.